Hello, everyone out there tuning in. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Ashley Bickle. I work in the recruitment department at Loyalist College. I have here with me today Dawn Price, who is part of our financial team at Loyalist, and she's here to discuss with us today financial aid and OSAP. So really looking forward to that. She's got a great presentation queued up that we're going to go through with you guys. Before we get into that, I want to introduce to you guys the chat feature that's a part of Zoom here. So you'll find out at the very bottom of your screen, if you hit the chat button, a white sidebar will pop up, and you can chat directly with Loyalist College. Ask us any questions that you may have, and we will answer those at the very end of the session. So get those questions in. We look forward to answering those and getting to those at the end of the session there. I also want to mention too, we're going to be going into a screen share mode here in a moment. If the sidebar is kind of in your way and you're not able to see the content, you are able to click and drag that sidebar and move it to a more convenient location if needed. I just wanted to make you guys aware of that if you're new to Zoom. Dawn, thanks for being here with us today. I want to turn it over to you for our fantastic financial aid and OSAP presentation.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Ashley. Welcome. I'm so glad that you could join us today to discuss financial planning for college and OSAP. So as Ashley said, I'm just going to take a minute and get to the presentation. This is new for me, as we usually go out to local high schools and do our presentation in person, but due to COVID and the trying times, this is our first virtual OSAP and financial planning presentation, so please bear with me. During my presentation, I'm going to discuss what key questions to ask yourself before attending college, the estimated costs of a year at Loyalist. I will also discuss OSAP, the application, and Loyalist College bursaries. At the end, as Ashley stated, we'll have a question period, so throughout the presentation, please type any questions on the chat forum. We will always tell students, unfortunately, finances and OSAP are a boring subject, not very interesting, but if you know how you're paying for school and where your funds are coming from, it will relieve a lot of stress and you will be able to concentrate more on your studies and being successful. Some of the questions you should be asking yourself if you haven't started already is how much is college going to cost? How much is tuition, the supplies you will need, as well as books, where you're going to live, whether on campus or off. This year is an exception, as you may be starting out at home due to online learning and then move throughout the school year closer to Loyalist. What is available for financial assistance and how do you apply? Does Loyalist College offer bursaries and awards? Have I discussed these options with my family or school advisor if needed? And have I prepared my budget for the upcoming year? So as you can see on this screen, I've done an estimated calculation of what your costs could be for the 2021 school year for a domestic student at Loyalist College. This is based on living away from home. So your tuition approximately could be roughly around $4,000. Books and supplies, depending on your program, could be up to $1,500. Residence on or off campus housing could be $6,000. Additional costs such as food, spending money, transportation, necessities, and of course a little fun could be about $120 a week depending on your budget. So your total roughly for a year if you're living away from home could be anywhere from $11,500 to $16,500. Now, where are you going to find the money for that? How you're going to pay for that? So some of the resources you may have access to is summer job savings. Even though you may not be working this summer, you may be eligible for the COVID benefits the federal government is providing, such as the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, the CERB, the Canada Emergency Student Benefit, the CESB, as well as the federal government has provided a Canada Student Service Grant, which more information can be found on our Loyalist College website, as well as the Canada COVID website to apply for these grants. You may also have a sponsorship through an Indigenous funding or a tuition subsidy program through your parent's employer. You may have personal savings from previous years working. Are your parents going to help you contribute? Maybe you have an RESP set up. You want to look at scholarships, bursaries, and awards through Loyalist, as well as outside of the college. Loans through OSAP, or maybe you might need a bank student line of credit. Employment throughout the year with part-time jobs through our on-campus employment program at Loyalist College, or off-campus part-time jobs. So as most of you know, our biggest funding source for post-secondary is OSAP. OSAP is a government-funded program through both federal and provincial government for full-time and part-time students that can make it easier for you to attend college. OSAP offers grants that you don't pay back, as well as loans that you pay back if you're eligible. One application and you will be assessed for both grants and loan. Payment of your loans would start 6 months after you graduate or stop attending the college. If you do receive enough grant that you feel will cover your costs, you don't have to take the loan. It does sit on hold for the school year and is easily accessible if needed throughout the year. Unfortunately, you cannot just ask for just part of the loan to be released. If you want it released, it will be all of what you qualified for. We always encourage all students to apply for OSAP, even if they don't need it or they don't think they will qualify. It's always worth a shot, and grants are free money that can help with schooling and your expenses. So who is eligible for OSAP? OSAP is open to Ontario residents who are a Canadian citizen, permanent resident, or protected person. You do need to live in Ontario for 1 full year without being a post-secondary student if you're coming from another Canadian province. If you have not, then you would apply for student aid from the province that you moved to Ontario from. The government also considers your status, whether you are a dependent student, independent, married, common law, or sole support parent, the program you are taking, the cost for the program, course load, and of course how long your study period is. They will also look if you're living at home or away from home, family size, depending on your status, as well as your family's contribution. So for this upcoming year, due to COVID and the changes we're going through at this time, the federal government has made some changes. For the 2021 school year, they've announced that they will be doubling their grants for the upcoming year only. So this is a good year to start going to school to receive more grants, even though it's a very trying time for most students and families. You may be eligible for extra funding. So they have doubled their non-repayable Canada student grants for full and part-time students. So you could receive up to $6,000 in grants for full-time OSAP from the federal government and $3,600 for part-time OSAP. They've also doubled the student with disability grant from $2,000 a year to $4,000. And students with dependents, that grant will also double depending on assessments and how many children you have and so forth. So they're also removing the expected student contribution of $3,600. So previous to this year, every student had to come to school with $3,600, even if you had it or not. They expected that contribution, as well as spouse contribution. On married and common law students, they've removed that as well. They're also raising the maximum weekly living amounts when assessing students from $210 to $350 a week. They're increasing existing distinction-based support to First Nations, Inuit, and Métis students. But at this time, we don't know what the provincial changes have been as they do have to approve them through legislation. So hopefully soon, Ontario will be announcing what changes they're making for OSAP. So getting started, these are the things you will need to make sure you have when you sit down to apply. Your SIN number for both you and your parents, your Loyalist College student number, your date of birth for yourself and your parents, your postal code, your email address. OSAP does prefer your school email, your last day you attended high school, name and date of birth for anyone to whom you wish to give consent. If your parents or guardian call us at the financial aid office to ask questions about your OSAP and you haven't put them on your application, unfortunately we can't give them any information. Sometimes this creates issues. So if you do want them to be able to phone in and get that information for you, make sure you put them on your application. Parents' 2019 income tax, as well, depending on if you receive social assistance, you'll need to have your statements close by, as well as any other assets that you may have. So this is what your front page of your OSAP online website looks like. It's a great tool for information about OSAP, how to apply, what happens after you apply, and any OSAP updates are usually found here. If you're a brand new student, you're going to register for your first time. And if you're returning and want to apply for second year or want to check your status, you would log in here as well. So this year for brand new users, OSAP has created a new information module for first-time users, which will help you understand OSAP a bit more, what your responsibilities are as a recipient, and basic financial information to support you through post-secondary education. It is a short self-study section with information on the OSAP. You must read, answer the questions at the end. You can log in and out to complete the module, or in one sitting, it will take approximately 15 minutes. Once completed, you don't have to do it again, and you continue on to the OSAP application. So the ministry will ask you if you want to link your OSAP application to OCAS. If yes, it will fill in some of your details from your OCAS application. But if there's an issue or an error at any time, you just come back to this page, hit no, and continue, as you can fill it in on your own. This is a very important number you're going to receive. It's your once your basic profile information is completed, you will be given an OSAP access number, otherwise known as your OAN. You'll have had to create a password and security questions. This number will always be used to log into the OSAP website, so please record it somewhere safe. To reset your OSAP number and password, if lost or forgotten, you can go through the online process. But a lot of times students can't get that to work, so they need to unfortunately go in person to an OSAP office and show your actual SIN card or proof of SIN, as well as government ID. Sometimes that's difficult if students don't have their SIN card to provide, and unfortunately we would have to turn you away as per the ministry guidelines. It is very important to keep this number in a safe, secure location. So as a new user, you're going to receive an email with a code to validate your email address. 24 hours expiry. The ministry uses this so they can send you updates about your status of application, and if you need to reset your OAN, you can do it quick and easy. Unfortunately, if you don't validate your email, you wouldn't get email updates on your application. So as you can see at the top, this is where you would enter your validation code. Once entered, you won't see the question again. Just below where you'll start to enter your full-time application or part-time. So full-time for OSAP purposes is a minimum 60% of a course load and 40% if you are a student with disability, and you would apply for part-time OSAP if under those percentages. So the difference between full-time and part-time OSAP is full-time covers tuition, books, and living, and part-time only covers tuition and books. So now you go to finish up the profile part of your application. You're going to go along and answer the questions about your high school date, if you're a student with disability, and your citizenship, if you're in care of children's aid. If yes, the application will automatically not ask parental information, and you may be eligible for more grant funding through OSAP. So the next page would be your school search. So just a note before we continue on, as you can see, most of my slides going forward will say 1920 full-time application. That's due to the ministry being so busy with all the changes coming up. They haven't got us the new slides yet. So where you do see 1920, please think 2021. So, and at the top, you can also see the 4 steps of completing your application. So when you're walking through, once each part is done, a check mark will come up beside it. You can save your application at any time and go back to complete where it is, and it will take you back to where you left off. So from the drop-down box here, you'll pick Loyalist College. You will need to enter your Loyalist College student number as well. This is very important, as we always ask your student number to look up your file on OSAP. If we do it by name, there may be many Mary Browns in the OSAP system, and we can't find the correct student. Then the next page is going to be your program search. You will enter the first word of your program. For example, pre for our pre-health program. Hit next, and it'll bring up all the programs that have pre in it. You will pick the correct one, making sure the dates in your program match what you are taking. So as you can see here, I've entered pre, I've hit next, pre-health comes up. It shows our program from September 8th to April 23rd. We know it's 2 terms and we're entering year 1, so that's the one. You're gonna select it. There will be a question on what percentage of a course load you will be. If you're going to be a full-time student, please enter 100%. Also, this is very important for this year. It's going to ask a question if you are taking your course online through distant education. Even though you're starting online due to COVID, because you're a full-time student, you will select no for this question. So that completes step 1 of the application. Now we're on to your current situation. So what is your status, whether you're married, common law relationship, sole support parent, or single? Just a note, if you are common law, the rules are different for OSAP than CRA. I know for CRA, you need to be together for 1 year. For OSAP purposes, it is living together for 3 years or more. You're considered common law, unless you have a child or children together and are living together. So if you've been together under that 3 years, you would be considered single independent. So for going forward for this presentation, I've selected single. The application will go through as a single student who is a dependent. So the application does ask you if you've been out of high school for at least 6 years at the start of the 2021 study period. If you have not been out of high school for 6 years, you are considered a dependent student and will need your parents' information for up to 6 years of schooling. The only exception is if you graduated or left high school and worked a minimum of 30 hours a week for 24 months without going to post-secondary, OSAP will then consider you independent. So if both your parents are deceased as a dependent student, it will not ask for parental information, but will ask for proof. The ministry wants to know if you've ever claimed bankruptcy. If a dependent student right out of high school, obviously we hope not. And if your answer will be no. If you are independent, married, common law, or sole support and have claimed bankruptcy, you need to answer yes. You will have to provide documentation to the ministry and they approve it. So these documents can take up to 6 weeks to be approved. So if you are in this situation, please apply early and upload your documents. Also, it'll ask you if you are living away from home or at home. It doesn't ask you what your rent is. It gives you an amount. They have a selected amount for living at home and away from home that they allow. Also for this year, if you're living at home to start your 2021 school year due to COVID, you will stay at home. And then if you do move through during the school year, we can change that on your application and it will reassess living costs. There will be a form to fill in and documentation to provide just where you're living and a letter from you stating that you've moved. The ministry allows an at-home standard amount of living and away from home amount of living. Onto your income and assets. So it's income received for 2019, not 2018. It does not include cents on any of the income questions. For example, if you or your parents made $20,005 and you try to enter the full amount, it will look like you made $200,005. So obviously that's a big error and we would have to go through and make those changes for you. So if you're on ODSP or Ontario Works, you will receive benefits before your study period. Again, you will enter it here. If you are receiving bursaries awards, you will enter it here on the application. Students can receive roughly up to $2,500 in awards before it affects your OSAP application. If you don't know at this time, that's okay. You will just put 0 because a lot of schools, including Loyalist, a lot of our bursaries you don't apply for until you're actually a student in school in September. So if you do receive one or you receive an outside award, you would just email us at the financial aid office and we can make that change for you. If you're on Ontario Works, that will discontinue once you do receive OSAP for government income. If you are on ODSP, you do need to claim it as ODSP will continue to cover your living for this school year, but OSAP will assess and only cover educational costs. Again, if you're a second career student, you can apply for OSAP to cover extra living costs and will have to enter what you're receiving from second career. So during the school year, if you are working, OSAP does allow students to make up to $11,200 for a 2-semester school term before it affects your funding. If you will be working part-time, you need to figure out what you will make over the 33-week school year. If more than $11,200, you'll enter it here. If that changes throughout the school year, you would again just email us to make the change. If you have RRSPs, you enter it here, but not RESPs, as the ministry does not include those on the application. If a student has any other assets, they would enter it here, such as large GICs, savings accounts that you're not using for school, but you do not include your car or a house if you own either of those. So again, that's the last part of step 2. The next one is step 3 of the application is the parental information. This is based on the family unit that you live with. So it could be both your parents, it could be a single mom or single dad, it could be a mom and stepdad or dad and stepmom, all depending on your personal situation. Be aware that even though you are entering parents' information and the funding is based on parental income, you, the student, are responsible for the loans you receive, and it will be in your name when it comes time to make payment. It will ask for parental information. Again, I've only put in the parent 1 slide. If there are 2 parents, you would fill in the same information for parent 2. So at the top, you can see it states a family breakdown. This is if you are not in contact with your parent due to family issues like alcohol, physical, mental abuse, and there will be documents that you have to provide if this is your case. I do want you to know that if this is your situation, all documents are only looked at by the coordinator of financial aid to approve the breakdown. They're sealed, not shared in any way, and are kept confidential in your file, because sometimes we know it's very hard to discuss these situations. You do not need to provide proof every year that you're in school, just a letter. Again, the second year stating your situation is still the same. It will be your parents' 2019 income tax that you will need for the 2021 application. If your parents have not done their income tax, they can estimate what their income was by looking at T4s. The grant that you receive are based on parental income. So if a dependent student, your parental income. If you're a single student, it's your income. And if you're a married or common law student, it's your spouse's income. So if taxes are not filed within the timeline given by the ministry and they can't verify your income with CRA, you could possibly have your grants turned to loan. So very important for taxes to be filed. The ministry will send out notifications if you do fall into this category and give you a timeline of when the information is needed before the grants do turn to loan. So very important for whatever years you're in school to make sure that your income tax and your parents' income tax are completed. So that's pretty much the OSAP application in a nutshell. You may have a lot more questions that you definitely can ask at the end, or send us an email. But now you've completed the application, you can review and submit it. Once submitted, you'll not be able to make any changes. You'll need to contact the financial aid office to make those changes. Early to mid-July, you will get your assessment of how much funding you qualify for. At that time, if you want to only take the grant, you'll need to select that under the funding part of your OSAP application, or contact financial aid office. Again, under the funding page, it will show you exactly what OSAP you will receive each semester. It is a 60-40 split, so you will receive more funds first semester than second. So you may need to save some of your first semester funding to carry over and help costs for second semester. So your funding will not be released until all of your documents have been processed. You will need to either submit them to your financial aid office through mail or upload them on the ministry to be processed. You'll have signature pages of the student, parents, spouse, if that's your situation, a master student financial agreement that needs to be done. Also may ask you for marriage certificate, birth certificates of children, affidavits. Again, this depends on your situation. Indigenous or permanent residency documentation, children's aid verification form, a permanent disability verification form that you may have to print. And if you stated yes for these questions, it will need to be filled out by someone at either Children's Aid or your doctor for the disability form. And then just a few days after submitting your application, you will receive an email from the National Student Loan Service Center with a link to process your Master Student Financial Agreement and a 10-digit number. This will allow you to set up your account with the National and how funds will get put into your bank account. And going forward, you will be able to see how much you owe and any payments through the National Student Loan Service Center website later on. Again, you should check the OSAP website for any updates to make sure all documents have been received a few weeks after applying and submitting them. Once your application states confirmation of enrollment, now you wait. So about a week before school actually starts, myself and the financial aid team will confirm your enrollment, releasing the funds. It will pay the college if you're owing tuition, and then the remainder will go into your bank account. So students will receive these funds usually in the first week of school. So you may need to buy your books or supplies before you receive OSAP funding, but most programs and teachers realize you won't get funding till the first week and are okay if you don't have the books right away. But we do suggest also, if you want your funds to be released in time for the first week of school to have your application, all documents processed by the first part of August. But you do have until 60 days before the end of your school year to apply for OSAP, and it will retroactive right back to September, the beginning of the year. So that's all about OSAP. Now I'm going to talk about Loyalist College bursaries and awards. For a smaller college, we have over $1 million in funding that we give out in bursaries and awards to help students. Some of the bursaries we have an entrance scholarship based on academic and athletic merit. These are through your high school if you're just leaving high school. We have an entrance bursary for first year students, which are based on financial need. This application has gone out by email the last few weeks. The due date is actually this Friday, June 26th. And if selected, $500 will go towards tuition. This is for domestic students only. If you did not receive an email, please email us and we'll send the paper application out to you as soon as we can. And also this year, we have a brand new with helping with COVID, Loyalist is giving out over $1 million in itself in financial need bursaries for new returning student bursaries for second and third year students. That application is open as well now, and it could be up to $1,000. The deadline is August 1st. Both domestic and international students are eligible for this bursary. We have all kinds of other bursaries based on financial need. We have a first generation bursary, Indigenous bursaries, as well as other awards and bursaries based on faculty selection and community donors. These bursary applications are open each semester for the first couple of weeks of the semester. You will always receive an email that they're open and you can apply through your My Loyalist portal. We always encourage students to apply every semester, as you never know what you could receive to help with your education and living costs. There's also lots of alternative sources of bursary funding outside of Loyalist College. These are 3 websites that we know are really popular for awards: scholarshipscanada.com, wyconic.ca, campusaccess.com. Also, you can research for awards through your parents' workplace, where you work. We know McDonald's, Tim Hortons, Walmart are a few places that have awards for students. If you or your parents belong to a service club or an organization, they may have awards, as well as if you play an organized sport, you may want to check with them. A lot of times your hockey team or soccer team has bursaries and awards as well. If you're just graduating high school, you should be checking in with your guidance office. They will have awards that can be applied for. And we hear a lot from guidance officers that they have all these awards and a lot of times they don't get applied for. So make sure you check in with them. There are lots of awards and bursaries out there for students to apply for. You just need to research it and ask the questions to the right people. Again, your next steps going forward, you're going to ask the questions, have the conversations with family or guidance counselors, complete your budget to make sure you know where your funding is coming from, how you will pay for school, make sure you apply for OSAP, bank loans if needed, bursaries and awards. So that's my presentation for today. I hope that everyone took away some great tips and a little bit more information about what OSAP is, what's out there to help you with your post-secondary education, and how to apply for it. Again, any questions that don't get answered, you can always email us at financialaidoffice@loyalistcollege.com. If you don't want to ask a question here, just send us an email and we'll definitely get back to you.
And if you've missed that email, that's financialaidoffice@loyalistcollege.com, and they're there. Our financial team's ready to answer questions. I've got my good friend Josh here with me today, and he's kind of been behind the scenes, and he's been, kind of fielding those questions, and he's going to pose some of these great questions to Don. So Josh, take it away.
Hey, thank you so much, Ashley. Don, phenomenal job. I've got some pretty great questions coming in from the crowd here. So we'll start right from the top. You ready to go?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So I've got one question here that was inquiring if there are any bursaries for military spouses.
I'm not sure through Loyalist College, through our awards office, if there are bursaries through military. On the Loyalist website, there is an awards directory that will list all of the awards that students have a chance to apply for. Plus, I would be checking through the military because they may have some actually through the base or their, their main office that your spouse can check into for sure to look up those awards.
For sure. Great. Next question. This one's a bit of a scenario based. It's asking if somebody's parents were divorced and their father was single, but their mother was in common law. Could the student do an application for having only one parent on the application?
So again, for parental, like to decide who gets put on the application, it's usually who you live with the most. So if you are 50-50 between your parent that, is single and your other parent that is common law, you would definitely pick the parent with the lower income. So if that would be the single parent, that's who you would go with. You do not need to put your mom and your dad on the application if they are separated. You would pick the family income that's the lower, or if you just live with your mom, that's whose information you would put in, or if you just live with your dad, that's whose information you would put on the application.
Awesome. So a good follow-up question to that would be the email for the bursaries. Does that go directly to the student Loyalist email accounts, or would it go to a parent's email account?
For the awards and bursaries, it always goes to the student's Loyalist College email.
Perfect. I've got another question just came in right now. It says, what type of documents do we need if we aren't with our parents?
So if it's a family breakdown, that you are in that situation that I've kind of explained, you can email us and we would give you definitely more information, but usually what it is 3 letters. So a letter from you explaining what your situation is, why you're not in contact with your parents, why it's a bad situation for you to live with them or be around them, or and then a letter from a close family friend with this that has seen the situation and why, again, in their perspective, why it's not a good situation for you to have contact with your family. And then the third one would be either sometimes there may be a police report because it was that kind of incident, or you've gone and talked to a counselor or something. So it would be a third-party letter. If that's not available, then just another letter from another third party outside that's not a family member that knows the situation as well. Unfortunately, it does have to be one of the, some kind of circumstance. It can't just be my parents don't want to fill in the application. That's called a parental refusal, because maybe they don't like the program you're taking or they don't like the school you're going to and they refuse to give you the information. So definitely, if you want more information on that, send me an email at the financial aid office and we can either hook up a time to call or just answer questions over email, because it is a definitely personal situation that you may be in.
Perfect. That's very well described. And I'd just like to reiterate to everybody that email that Dawn mentioned is the financial aid office at loyalistcollege.com. I'll actually quickly just send it in the chat here so everybody can have that for themselves. There you are. We'll move on to our next question. We've got a question coming in here asking if there are many returning or mature student bursaries or second career bursaries.
So there's lots of bursaries that all students can apply for come September, and then again in January through Loyalist College. But our new big bursary this year is the returning student bursary that could be up to $1,000 for students. That is open now. So if you are a second or third year student watching our presentation, make sure you go onto your My Loyalist and apply for that. But also throughout the school year, make sure you apply for the bursaries when they open both September and January. If you don't receive one in September, don't be discouraged. Apply again in January. Always make sure you apply every semester, because we do see a lot of students that come in that need help and they haven't applied because they just didn't think they would get one. So, last year, both semesters, we gave out over $400,000 in just financial need bursaries from our office and financial aid. So make sure you apply, because, any kind of bursary or award definitely helps you in the long run.
Oh, absolutely, it does. I think it's very good for everybody in this chat, and as well as all students, to get out there and sort of apply for what they can. Our next question, Dawn, is Another situation question. I have lived on my own since 2017. Do I still need my parents' information?
Unfortunately, yes, because the ministry rules are you need to be out of high school for more than 6 years to have to be considered an independent student. So you do need your parental information. If for some reason you live on your own in Belleville and your parents live in Belleville as well, there is a form under the OSAP forms on the OSAP website that you can fill in to adjust your living away from home. Again, any questions about that, definitely email us and we'll help you get the right form and the right answers.
Perfect. Next question is, what is the difference between OSAP and NSLSC?
So OSAP obviously is who you apply through for. That's where the funding comes from. It is the ministry, but they do have a third party called the NSLSC, the National Student Loan Service Center. They are the ones that send out the money to you, and they will be the company that collects the funds once you're done school. So they kind of work for OSAP. That's why when you receive that email from the National Student Loan Service Center, a lot of people think, well, it's not from OSAP. It's, I don't need to do anything with it. It is legitimate. It is a company that works for OSAP, and they are the ones that give you the funds, and they will be the ones collecting as well.
Perfect. Our next question is, do I apply one time during my 3-year program for OSAP, or do I apply every year?
So OSAP's based on every school year. So every OSAP year runs from September to August of the following year. So if this is your first year in school, you will do an application for the 2021 school year. Then come next September, you will need to apply again. You won't need to submit all the documents that you do this first year. They'll carry forward. You'll just update, you're in the second year of the program, what your income is, maybe what your parental income is, depending on your situation. And then again, for the third year, you'll do another new application.
Amazing. We've got another question just coming in here right now. What is the deadline to apply for bursaries?
So we have a few. So the entrance bursary for first year students, again, you should have received an email with that paper application. It's due this Friday, and you will know early next week if you've been approved and received one of those. The new returning bursary is open now as well, and it's due by August 1st. Then our normal bursaries that run September and January, you have 3 weeks at the beginning of each semester. So when you receive the email like, hey, it's time to apply for all of Loyalist College bursaries, here's the deadline. It's usually the end of August till around like September 17th to the 20th. And then again, the end of December till about the 15th to 17th of January. So you'll have a good 3 weeks to apply for those bursaries.
Yeah, lots of time to get in there and get those bursary applications out there and try to help yourself out. This next question is, what if my parents' income has become lower due to COVID-19? Will OSAP still look at my 2019 income?
So that's a good question, because obviously this year is, a new situation for everyone. So OSAP or the ministry is taking that into consideration, even though you have to put 2019 parental income on your application. If due to COVID or any situation your parents have lost income, maybe been laid off, maybe they've become ill, there is an appeal that you can do based on that, and OSAP will take into consideration their 2020 income. There is a form on the OSAP website. It is not available yet, as the ministry is updating it, but once you get your assessment, probably late July, that form will be available. You can go on, print it off. It will tell you what you need. So more, you'll just have to a letter from your parents explaining, the situation, and just proof of that their income is going to be lower. So maybe a letter from their employer. It will explain on that form. And again, whenever you have questions about OSAP or anything to do about finances, always email us. I know a lot of times also we see a lot of students come in and, you know, they've been stressed out about they're not receiving enough OSAP, or they just don't have the funds to cover, but their friends have told them that they can't get any more, or their friends have said this, or but always make sure you ask us. We are what we call, hopefully, the financial aid experts, OSAP. We know what's going on, and we know how to look at your application, and if we can help you in any way. Do not, because we also hear a lot, oh, I wish I would have came in earlier and not listened to my peers or my classmates or my cousin or whoever. Make sure you come to us. Our doors and our emails, we are always open, and we always, you know, answer really quick, and we try to help as much as we can, because it's very stressful. And if, again, I'll reiterate, like, if you know where your money is coming from and how to pay for school, you can concentrate more on school life, your work, and, you know, your schoolwork and other things besides where your rent's going to come from, and tuition, how that's going to get paid, and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great, Dawn. Thank you for that answer. I've got another question coming in here right now. What sort of loans and financial opportunities are available for international students?
So unfortunately, OSAP is not available for international students. I believe that most international students would come with their own funding. You can check with our international office about any bursaries that they provide, or any outside sources of funding. I do know that international students can get a visa, but I believe the limit is maybe only $1,000, so not a whole lot. So these are questions definitely for our international office, as again, they are the experts that can help with where you can get your funding to help to get you through school.
Perfect. Yeah, and I'll just mention now, the contact for our international department is just international@loyalistcollege.com. You can reach them by email. Our next question here is another situational question. It says, I have applied for bursaries through my mom's work, and I'm not sure if I will get it. How do I answer the bursary question on the OSAP application?
So if you're applying right now and you're not sure how much money and bursaries or awards you're going to receive, you're just going to enter 0 for that question, and then submit your application. And at any time when you do receive a bursary, whether it's like the end of August or October or January, you can always email us, as we always need it in writing to update your OSAP application, and then it will look at it. You know, if you're 95% sure that you're going to get the bursary, you can add it now, and then we can take it away. But it's easier to, you know, put 0 and then add it at a later date.
For sure, it makes the whole process a little bit easier. Another situational one here. It says, I've already submitted my OSAP application, but I need to make changes as I have decided on a different program. How do I go about that?
Yeah, so we have this a lot, because students, you know, they may decide they want to take pre-health, and then they've got accepted right into nursing, so they want to make the change. It's all through us. Once you submit your application, you cannot go back and make any changes. So you just send us the quick email, and we will make those changes for you.
Perfect. Yeah, a little quick and easy. That's great. It seems like it'd be a complicated process, but Dawn here makes it very simple for us. That's great.
Yeah, definitely don't close your application and start a new one, because it's quite easy just to go in and change the program from our side, or any information that you need to update.
For sure, yeah. And we've got another question here rolling in. What happens about withdrawal during the semester to my OSAP?
Okay, so if you receive OSAP money and withdraw within the refund period, which is 10 days of schooling, the first 10 days, any OSAP that comes to the school towards your tuition would go back to the National Student Loan Service Center against your loan. If some of your grant could possibly turn to loan because you didn't complete the full semester, and you would just make any payment back to the National Student Loan Service Center that you had in your bank account. If you had already spent some of the money and, you know, you didn't have enough to pay it all back, 6 months from the time you withdraw, at that point, if you're not back in school, you would need to start making those payments on that money that you owed to the National Student Loan Service Center.
Right. So They even give you a nice big window if you're not planning to go back. So that's great. Don, I've got another question here. It says, I've made an OSAP account. However, I am locked out. Would I contact the financial aid office or would I need to contact somebody different?
So if you're locked out, it's due to probably maybe your password was incorrect or you don't know your OSAP number. So you can try through online to reset that information. If that doesn't happen, usually you would go into an OSAP office and show your SIM card and government ID, but due to the fact that, we're not in office, we're working from home, email the financial aid office and we have someone that will contact you and go through the steps to reset that number and get you back into your account through that financial aid office.
That's great, Don. Thank you so much for all your amazing answers. That's the end of our question period. So I'll turn it back over to my good friend Ashley, and she can steal the show.
Thank you so much, Josh. And Don, thank you again for your fantastic presentation and your amazing insight that you've brought to us today, and all your great answers to our tough questions here. And Josh, thanks for posing those tough questions. I want to thank everyone for joining us today and being a part of this webinar. I hope you learned a lot. And again, if you have any further questions, after we kind of log off here, we want you to contact financial aid office at loyalistcollege.com. I'll just throw that out there again, and that is in the chat as well. So if you want to get in contact with Don and the fantastic financial team at Loyalist, they're there, they're ready to assist. We hope you all stay well. Thank you again for joining us, and Don, thank you again.
Thank you, everyone. Can't wait to see everyone back at the school, and good luck. And again, don't hesitate to contact us if you have any questions at all.